Each year in the United States, thousands of major crimes go unsolved. When the case has gone cold and police have nowhere to turn, they seek assistance from the public. This is a program dedicated to solving these cases. This is Crime Stoppers Case Files.
Every year, crimes go unsolved here in Southern California. Loved ones are left waiting. I'm Joy Benedict, and as a news reporter, I've covered countless crimes, countless homicides, and I know that sometimes the victims of those crimes are forgotten almost as quickly as the headlines fade. So tonight on Crime Stoppers Case Files, we take another look at the crimes still lingering unsolved in our community. Let's get right to work. It's March 6, 2011, and 33-year-old Jesus Castro left his home in Montebello to get a bite to eat, but he never made it. He was shot numerous times in a Montebello neighborhood, leaving 3 children without their father. Here is his story.
Well, my brother always wanted us to be together. He always held parties at his house just because he wanted the family to stay together. Like, he liked us bonding, you know?
We're a big family. It's 13 of us, and I'm like one of the youngest, and he was the oldest. He's 32 and I'm 23. I just turned 23.
He actually taught me his stuff. He taught me discipline, kind of like with my other sister. He'll teach us kind of how to box, but just kind of like defend each other. So, because he would always say, like, people are not gonna be like always friendly, you know. You need to like stay like firm, you know. You can't always cry about everything.
We were at school, so we wouldn't really see each other a lot. But as we got older, that's when we got to hang out with each other way more. Well, I moved in with him, so then we started bonding more there. And then we'll go out as a double date with his girlfriend and my husband.
The first time I met Jesus, his sister wanted me to meet him, and we went out to eat. He was a pretty cool person, happy to meet me and everything. And the first day we met, we bonded.
He was very funny, a very happy person, and very outgoing.
He would always want to be like cooking, dancing. He would always make us laugh. He was everything.
For him, his family was first, no matter what. I got married after I met him, and he was actually there, and he was really happy. What he said, it was, "Franco, I really love you, appreciate it, and I thank you for being with my sister and loving her, and always being there for us, and I just really love you, bro." And he loved my daughter so much. He was there the day she was born, and he used to love all his nephews. Most of the time when they had gatherings, family gatherings, that's the first thing he used to do, is play with all his nephews and his kids together.
He has 3 little kids, 2 girls and 1 little boy, and they live with their grandma. He told them, "I'm your friend, I'm your father, so you could tell me anything, and whenever you guys need help or are in trouble or anything you want to talk about, I'll always be there for you guys."
You know, several years ago, Jesus' wife was murdered, leaving him a widow with 3 children. He, in fact, at one point was so distraught, he actually attempted suicide. And he was just an individual who was, in fact, had turned his life around and was now making a more of a positive contribution to the community and was hoping to reacquire his children. On March 6th of 2011, we have Jesus driving into a local burrito stand off of Beverly Boulevard. We have him captured on video there. He then leaves there in his car and begins to attempt to locate a parking spot. Now, the street Via Altamira is a small street. It, in fact, only provides parking on the west side of the street. And Garfield Avenue, apparently at that time of the evening, was in fact filled. There was no parking spot, so he's looking for parking. According to what our observations are, he then pulls into the driveway in hopes of maybe going back down Garfield, where when he stops, that's when he apparently is confronted by this individual. He gets out of his car and he begins to walk 10 to 15 feet. And now he's in the middle of the street and he's confronting the suspect. At that point, an argument ensues. At one point of the argument, one of our witnesses indicates that the suspect then pulled out a gun, where he then shot Jesus in the middle of the street. After the shooting, the suspect then pulls Jesus over to the curb area where he applies an additional 2 gunshots. We do have one witness who sees this individual who he had confronted following the shooting, run through the yards going westbound, and then he goes northbound. The suspect then runs northbound through an alleyway that runs parallel to Via Altamira. We do have several witnesses, but we would like to find additional witnesses that could possibly identify this individual. At that point then, Montebello police arrive and they find Jesus deceased at the location.
In 1975, the first Crime Stoppers organization was formed by a detective who believed media attention helped solve cases. Since then, thousands of Crime Stoppers organizations have been formed around the globe with the same mission, encouraging members of the public to stand up against crime. Every 14 minutes, Crime Stoppers help solve a crime somewhere in the world. Get involved. Contact your Crime Stoppers organization and learn how you can help. Leave a tip, crimestoppersone.com.
On March 6th of 2011, we're actually coming up on the 1-year anniversary of the death of Mr. Jesus Castro. Mr. Castro lived in the Montebello area, in and around the area where the incident occurred. It's about 1:10 in the morning. Our victim drives up into this driveway here where he stops. He then exits his vehicle. At this point, he then proceeds to walk, having seen our suspect. Evidently, they may have known each other in the past. He then stops right in the middle of the street. An argument then ensues between these two individuals. We're not sure as to what the content of that argument is, but people do in fact hear it, as it's evidenced by all of these windows. The argument probably goes on for about anywhere between 10 to 15 seconds. At that point, our suspect produces a weapon, a gun in this case, and proceeds to shoot him a number of times. As he shoots him, the suspect then drags our victim over between 2 cars that are parked here. And at that point, he proceeds to fire additional rounds into the body of our victim. During the course of this incident, we have a female who's up in the apartment complex just to the east of here, who is screaming to the suspect to stop, please stop shooting. At that point then, the suspect then runs off and is last seen running northbound through the alleyway, which runs parallel here to this street. It's evident that there's probably additional witnesses out there. As we can see, there's a number of apartments with a number of windows, and I'm hoping that somebody's going to come forward and call either the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, Montebello Police Department, or Crime Stoppers.
What we want is justice, and it'll really help the family. It's just hard to not know nothing, and nobody likes to be in this position. Nobody. It'll be something nice to know, and everything will change.
I would really appreciate it, because I feel like wherever he's at, he's not happy, because he was everything for his kids. His wife, she's gone too, so he wanted his kids with him. He wanted to be that father for him. So I know that wherever he's at, he's not happy. Because how can you leave kids alone? This year he was gonna get his lawyer, and he was gonna get his kids back.
Jesus was no stranger to violence. Obviously, his wife had been murdered several years before. He, in fact, at one point was so distraught, he actually attempted suicide. It's a sad, sad commentary on a life that was ended very abruptly. Suspect description would be a male Hispanic, about 5'8". He's probably going to be weighing about 150 to 160. We believe him to be close-shaved or bald-headed. He appears to be between the ages of 19 and 23 years old, medium to dark complexion. Again, we're looking for additional witnesses on this case. If you have any information, please don't hesitate to call. My name is Detective Richard Ramirez, work Sheriff's Homicide Bureau, 323-890-5500. Or you can call Crime Stoppers and remain anonymous. Our objective is to find out who did this, capture this person so he doesn't do any harm to any additional people.
Police are hoping that someone saw this horrible crime or someone has heard something since. If that is you, you are urged to come forward. There are 3 children without either parent, and they deserve answers, and they deserve justice. So if you know anything about the murder of Jesus Castro, please call Crime Stoppers. The number is 1-800-222-TIPS, or log on to lacrimestoppers.org, where you can learn how to text your tip anonymously. It's May 9th, 2009. It's 2 weeks before high school graduation, and that's when 17-year-old Jerrill Dulaney was walking home from a friend's house in Altadena. He didn't make it. He was shot and killed. Jerrill's family needs your help.
When Jerrill was born, he was a nice little chubby kid, you know, curly hair. He was the love of my life. The family consists of 2 daughters, my wife, and Jerrill.
I'm the oldest, which is 38, and then my baby brother, which was 17 at the time. We would always go and eat and just sit and talk about the stars, because he was into like that type things too. Big Dipper, Little Dipper, I would like point out the different things to him, and so yeah, he was very interested in it.
And he loved animals, you know. He had cats, dogs, and turtles.
He was an animal freak. Just an awesome kid. Just an awesome kid.
He was into bodybuilding, you know, and he told me that he wanted to be a boxer one day.
So I would take him down to Villa Park, and so he could do the boxing thing, because that's more so what he wanted to get into. So, but we would do other things as far as, you know, do the fire academy or what have you for him, just to keep him busy, because he was home all the time.
If you seen me, you seen him. Or if you seen his mother, you seen him. And we almost had to push him outside, you know, for him to go out to play. He was constantly busy, you know, doing positive things. He had 2 jobs, where he worked at the supermarket and he worked after school, cleaning up the place, you know. He was a real nice kid. I brought him up in church, me and my wife, we brought him up in church. And I used to always tell him, I said, you know, the most important thing you need to do is to graduate from school. Treat everybody like you want to be treated. He told me, he says, well, that's what I do. I'm like, wow, you know, I mean, I really raised him, you know, to this point, you know, and he fooled me. He says, well, Daddy, I don't think I'm gonna graduate. I said, why? I said, you're doing real good. He said, well, I don't think but he had already graduated, see, and he was gonna surprise me of his graduation before he was murdered. And so I found out afterwards.
On the early morning hours of May the 9th, 2009, my partner, Sergeant Don Walls, and myself had received a call about a shooting that occurred in the Altadena area. When we arrived, we were informed that an individual, our victim, Jerill Dulaney, had suffered a gunshot wound. He was transported to the hospital where he succumbed to his injuries. We learned that Mr. Dulaney was at a friend's house and was leaving for the evening, headed home. When Mr. Dulaney would have left his friend's house for the evening, he headed out eastbound on Terrace Street, northbound on Fair Oaks, and then traveled eastbound on Altadena. This happened in the late evening hours at approximately 11 o'clock at night. It was late at night, so there weren't very many people or very many cars out. We don't know if there was any confrontation between the two that evening, because we don't have any witnesses that actually saw what happened. We do have several witnesses that do say they heard gunshots and waited several minutes before coming outside, and only to find Mr. Dulaney lying in the street. After the gunshots are heard, several 911 calls are made to Altadena Station. Deputies are actually in the area. One of the witnesses that we spoke to does see a patrol unit coming in his direction, and he flags that patrol vehicle down.
I couldn't believe it. You know, it's like I taught him at an early age because I was raised in a poor community, and I seen the things that was going on around there, you know, and I said, this is my son, and I'm gonna raise him up not to be in any gangs, not to hurt anyone, and that's what I did. And all the hard work that I put into him, it's like he disappeared. I seen him and then he was just like gone.
On May the 9th, 2009, Jerrill Dulaney was killed while he was walking home from a friend's house in the Altadena area. As he approached Altadena Drive, he turned eastbound onto this service road and he continued walking toward his home. As he got about halfway down this service road, midway down the block, he was approached by the suspect, who shot him several times. Jerrill fell to the ground at that point, and a few minutes later, a citizen who had heard several shots, who was walking by, saw him laying in the street somewhere in this area and came to his aid. At that same time, she also saw a patrol vehicle that was coming westbound on Altadena Drive, which she flagged down, which the citizen flagged down at that point. At that point, they requested assistance, and Jerrill was later taken to the hospital where he died from his injuries. According to our investigation, we don't have anything that shows it was robbery. There was nothing taken from him. There were witnesses who did recall hearing and seeing a small compact car leaving the area immediately after the shooting. It's unclear if this car is involved or not. It was a small, compact, dark-colored vehicle. Mr. Dulaney was 17 years old, and he was a senior in high school. According to friends and teachers at the school, he was a very good kid, a very good student, was well liked by everyone, and he was known as basically helping kids get along with each other.
No gang ties. Now, if he did have involvement, then it's like, okay, you live in this world, you get what's due to you if you live in that type of lifestyle. But for this kid to not live this lifestyle like this and still just get ripped away, it's affected us big time.
We've been going through it so much, me and my wife. I've lost my mother, I lost my father, 2 sisters and a brother. But when I lost my son, there's no comparison.
If anyone has any information regarding this case, please contact myself, Sergeant Sandra Nava, or my partner, Sergeant Don Walls, at LA County Sheriff's Homicide Bureau, 323-890-5500. Or you can contact Crime Stoppers and remain anonymous.
The only thing I would tell him is, you know, I forgive you because I forgive all. But at the same time, how could you? On Mother's Day, you decide to want to just roam the streets and just kill someone?
Jerrill Dulaney was just 17 years old. He was 3 weeks from his 18th birthday, 2 weeks from receiving his high school diploma. He didn't deserve this, and neither did his family. So if you saw anything that spring night in Altadena, or you've heard anything since, please call Crime Stoppers. That number is 1-800-222-TIPS, or log on to lacrimestoppers.org, where you can learn how to text your tip. It may lead to a cash reward. Thank you so much for joining us for this week's edition of Crime Stoppers Case Files. And remember, we are here every week with more crimes and more families needing answers. These are your neighbors. This is your community, and you can make a difference.